Good evening, Julie.
Good evening, Christine.
Yes, this is May 10th, 2023. We're going to be talking about a very difficult subject today.
Yes, we will.
Yes, and this is, I want people to understand first before I actually start this video that the facts of what we are about to talk about today were given to us by the street people, and I want to make that quite clear. It was not the facts by the police of what had happened, as they're still under investigation. So this is what's being talked about on the streets and the facts that the street people understand. And it's with great sadness that I wish to report the death of another street person. Unfortunately, it's another indigenous woman. And we just had Red Dress Day on Friday. And here we've had another one of our people murdered as well.
Correct, yes.
And these are the facts as we at the present understand them. And I understand that Sunday morning, as usual, people were lined up around 6:30 or a little after because the Shepherd's opens for breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. And can you explain what happened? Because I understand that all of a sudden everyone in the line for the breakfast saw something, all of a sudden 11 police cars pulled up.
Correct, yes. Well, I was going, anyways, for breakfast around 7 o'clock, so it was around 6:30 when I came around. And, so now there was I heard that, there was a deceased body across the street from the Shepherd, So anyways, I saw a dealer crossing the street, and, so just pointing, at the body. So anyways, he came back to the Shepherd to tell the staff to call the cops, and after that, everybody came over. So 11 cars.
11 cars. So,
just one by one.
So apparently no one saw anything from the Shepherd side who were lined up. It was just all of a sudden the police cars showed up.
Exactly.
Yes, and then apparently you also stated to me that there was someone from the Shepherds actually went over to check. And
correct.
From what the dealer said to them, and then they called the police right away.
That's it.
And that's why we suddenly had all the police arrive at that time. And from what we understood, everyone was very surprised to see this, and that it was another person that died. And from what we understand, it was this person was apparently badly beaten.
Very bad beating, yes.
And it was said it was a woman.
Yes, it was.
We didn't have any details at the time because it took a couple of days for you to piece together what happened, talking to the street people. It was stated that around 6:30 a.m. that a dealer found the body of a woman across the street. He then went to the Shepherds and asked them to call the police. When the police arrived, tape was immediately put up. The first facts that morning of May 7th, 2023, while waiting in line for breakfast, was that she'd been badly beaten, and the information that was coming out when people were talking in the line at that time, that her face was smashed into a wall, and her neck was broken, and the dealer was being questioned by police at the time.
That's correct. Yes, he was getting questioned by police, yes.
So apparently he is the one who found the body, and these facts are apparently coming because people in line or around the street at that time coming in for breakfast were overhearing the conversation between him and the police officer. So this is where some of these details were coming from. It was later found out that it was an indigenous woman, and her name was Jessica, I believe.
Yes, it was.
And she was about 35 to 40 years old.
Correct.
And you apparently knew her just in passing, and you understood that she did drugs, alcohol, and believe she was a prostitute as well.
That too, Christine, yes.
So this is where we're at here, and that there was also a couple of tents set up across the street from the Shepherds. So was she in the tents? I think it's going to be very difficult for the police because
very difficult. Yes.
When she's into so much stuff, who actually did it? Was a pimp? Was it the John? Was it the drug dealer? Was it someone in the tent?
But I hope they found the killer. I hope they do.
I sincerely hope they do, because we don't need them running around the streets.
Really not. It can be dangerous for the other clients across the street here.
And the other thing was it was very difficult for you because of the fact that it was only a few feet from where we found Frank dead last fall. And if my viewers
the
can
same
go,
place.
yes,
Close enough. Yes.
yes. And then apparently another detail came out later that apparently a frying pan was also found on the sidewalk.
That's right.
So it must have been a very bad scene because, as you stated to me, like you were so upset that Sunday night when you came back because that was not the way that our day had been planned out at all, because you were supposed to go for breakfast. And then, of course, Shay, who was in one of my earlier videos, the lady in the wheelchair, because she's isolated, we were going to take her to the park that day because we were doing the community cleanup in the park. And, of course, you never showed. And you were so rattled, from what I understand, you couldn't even, I can understand why you couldn't even come and do the park cleanup. And you just had to get out of the area. And what did you do when you got out of the area?
My God, I just went for a bus ride. Yeah, and thinking about Dale. Well, yeah, and just go talk to the street people after a while. And so they told me more about it the next day.
Yes, and then by the time you got back here, you decided to come in and talk to me, and I was really glad you did. You were so rattled, so badly rattled. I had to calm you down again, and your mouth was going a million miles an hour trying to explain to me what had happened that morning. So that this is why we waited a couple of days, and the next day, of course, I was able to do the last video on you, which I was grateful for. But I'm glad you came in and talked to me.
Of course, Chrissy, anytime I had to tell you about it. And now I hope it's going to get resolved as soon as possible. And, and find the murder. Okay, we did this to our friend Jessica. And
yes.
God bless her soul. And the family, too.
But again, this was unreported even in the papers, or we never heard anything.
No, they don't care. It's a number.
Yes.
Another
but it's also disturbing because this is another one of our indigenous people that we've just lost as well.
That too, Christine. Very sad thing.
But it's so hard because even that night with my knee, as you're well aware of, I came out of the hospital because I had to have that knee drained from the infection, and I had to learn how to walk all over again. My knee was acting up and it was aching, and what you do hear outside when you have your window open is a constant screaming, even from the shepherds. I know earlier the evening, I heard typical to hear a woman screaming, but the problem
3 in the morning, 4 in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you don't know. Like, I fell asleep finally, I guess, around 3 in the morning. And then, of course, by 6:30 in the morning, she was gone. I don't recall hearing anything when I did finally go to sleep because I had to take a painkiller for myself. But it is a horrible thing, but maybe somebody closer to the shepherds might have heard something as well that took place.
There you go. And the next morning, they did find the body.
But I'd also like to explain to my viewers that so far we've had murders all around us. I heard the pow pow behind me in June of last year. Of another person was killed on the street behind me. All the screaming, and the yelling and the shouting, it's getting normalized around here. So people don't even want to pay attention to it half the time because they don't want to be calling the police every 5 minutes, because then it becomes like, okay, this is nuisance calls. So we don't know if we really need to call the police or not. But I also want to explain something that happened to me when I was 12 years old. And I'm half expecting to hear this again, literally because of the area I'm in. Okay, I grew up for the first 20 years of my life out in the West End, stayed in the same home. It was summertime. My bedroom window was wide open. We had the typical house with 100 by 50 foot lot. It wasn't the house behind us, but all of a sudden I was just totally jarred out of my sleep. I was lying flat on my back, and I jumped so hard that I heard this most ungodly scream that I'd ever heard. And when I bolted upright in bed, I actually moved my bed 2 feet right into the wall. And I was just shaking and trembling and like, what was that? Mom, Dad, are you all right? Is it my brother? What happened? And I was just totally baffled. And so the next thing I knew, I heard a door slam from outside, one door slam. Then it sounded like somebody running for a moment. Then another door opened, and then I heard a car peel out. Now, back in the 60s, at that time, of course, Ottawa's a much safer place to be living in, so nothing really exciting ever happened in the neighborhood.
Back then it was quiet, yes.
Yes, but in the morning what we found out was usually if a house is burglarized, back then it was nice to know your neighbors, but sometimes they found out, these crooks would find out when you were leaving or going on a vacation. Unfortunately, this night the couple that was supposed to leave with their son decided they were something to delay them by a day. They were in the house. The parents were sleeping upstairs. It was a hot day. Of course, we didn't have air conditioners back then, so he was sleeping in the basement at the time. And a burglar came through the window. He was confronted by him, and apparently he was stabbed. He did survive, and apparently what I did hear was the burglar tearing out the door and into the car and peeling away. But fortunately, they did catch him because he left his calling card somewhere between the two doors. He dropped his wallet and left his calling card with his ID in it.
Good.
So that was
solved
very quickly.
Case.
But
Good.
I don't want children in the area to have to hear that kind of scream.
Not at all. Animals either.
You know, but because of what is happening here, I'm expecting to hear it. And that scream, as long as I live, I will never, ever forget that scream. But here again, we're having problems. And this is not the little city of Ottawa that I grew up in. And that was a very rare occasion. So, I appreciate you for talking to me.
No problem, Christine. And anyways, yeah, so my sympathy for the family, and God bless everybody.
Yes, God bless.
And be safe.
Yes.
Be safe out there.
Yes, definitely be safe out there. And the best thing that people can do, and my viewers can do, is to keep calling the counselors and that. Try and get them to help us. I know people are talking. We're trying to get back and forth between the wards, and things are trying to be done. But please call your counselors. That's the best thing you can do, and try and help us straighten it out. Because it's not only here in Lower Town. Vanier has the same problems. I've had people contact me from Vanier with the similar problems as well. So, and it's spreading throughout the city.
Yes, it is. And it's time to do the cleanup and pick up all the bad toxic people around us. So ASAP.
Yes, and I don't care if you're doing drugs or whatever, your drugs, the prostitution, the alcohol. We all have problems, but that is not any reason for not acceptable to turn around and kill a person. All right, so I
hope they catch the monsters.
I sure do hope they catch them as soon as possible.
And
I hope anybody who's listening to this has any information for the police. Please do call the police, even if you have to call Crime Stoppers. Let them know.
Crime Stoppers as soon as possible. Yes.
Yes, please do, because we need this monster off the street as soon as possible. And thank you again for listening, and take care, and have a good evening.
You too, Christine.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care. You too.
Be safe.